What a wild housing market we have right now. So for example, according to Freddie Mac, 30-year fixed mortgage rates surged to the highest level since 2001. And to make matters worse, home prices nationwide are not too far off all-time record highs that was set last year. Now, of course, part of the reason why we're seeing home prices still at very high levels is due to inventory remaining at anemic levels. So in today's housing market update, I'm going to share the latest trends we're seeing right now according to my own analysis of Realtor.com's data regarding home prices, housing inventory, the share price reductions, and much more. This will give us some idea about which direction our US housing market is headed. And with that said, please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and also hit the like button if you guys get any value out of this video. This is actually one of my favorite videos I make for you guys each and every week here. So let's actually look at Realtor.com's report regarding what's happening right now in the US housing market. And just like my previous videos though, I did not even read it though. Instead, go to Realtor.com/research/data. Click on this link right here, and it takes you to more or less this nerdy Excel file here, which I have color-coded and added my own comments regarding the trends I'm seeing right now based on their data here. So let's go and dive right in, talking about asking prices in the US, because last week, the median asking price nationwide increased by 1.1%. This marks the fourth consecutive week of year-over-year increases of asking prices. Therefore, the decreases in prices compared to a year earlier was very much short-lived, only lasting 6 weeks, which is right here, June 10th through July 15th, a decrease on a year-over-year basis. And like I mentioned right there, this decline in prices was short-lived due to the fact that prices fell much faster at this time last year compared to this year, and we have low inventory is supporting home price growth this year. Will that change given the recent rise in rates? I'll definitely keep you posted with latest developments, of course, on the channel. Okay, let's talk about housing inventory, or the number of houses for sale nationwide, because last week it decreased by 7.2%. This is much different compared to the giant gains in the range of 50 to 70% that we saw in January through March this year. Now it's down by 7%. And on top of that, this also marks the 9th consecutive week in which active listings is down compared to a year earlier. Primary reason for this is due to a low level of new supply hitting the market, or a low level of new listings. So in other words, it's not filling up the bucket of housing supply because we're seeing a lack of new supply coming in. It's also due to the fact that we saw inventory skyrocketing at this time last year, whereas this year inventory is only up slightly compared to the start of this year. Speaking of that, here's my own analysis of Altos Research.com's data regarding inventory levels right now. So according to them, for the week ended August 18th, there was about 497,000 homes for sale. 1 year ago, approximately 551,000. That's a decrease of 10% year over year compared to the giant 76% gain that we saw in late February. So late February, we're down by nearly 80% year over year. Now we're only down by 10% from last year's levels. Also, this is very important here, because inventory has only increased by 26,000 houses so far this year. So we only have approximately 26,000 more homes for sale right now compared to the start this year. So year to date up by 26,000. That's a growth rate of 6% year to date. Compare this to last year at this time, we grew by 260,000 houses. So to start the year last year compared to mid-August last year, we saw a gain of 260,000 more homes for sale compared to only 26,000 this year. And last year, that represented a giant increase of 89% compared to only a 6% growth rate this year. And that, my friends, is one of the main reasons why the housing market fell off a cliff last year, and why the metrics here are kind of challenging to track when looking at year-over-year changes as well here. One thing I do want to mention though, as a note right there, inventory has been increasing very slowly ever since April this year. mainly due to seasonality and coupled with the fact that we're seeing a decrease of home buying demand due to the fact that prices and rates are still very, very high right now. Also, it's important to mention as well is that we have 10% fewer houses for sale right now compared to a year ago. However, we're down by about 50% compared to the same week of 2019. And also on top of that, we're also missing around 450,000 fewer homes for sale compared to the same time frame of 2019. Therefore, we have historically low inventory levels of existing houses. Now, don't take my word for it though. Look at this. Here's AltosResearch.com. For the week ended August 18th, around 497,000. 1 year ago, it was 551,000. To start the year this year, we were at around 471,000. Now it has only increased to 496,000. Compare this to last year. Look at this. January 7th, there was only 292,000 homes for sale, and then it surged to 551,000, a giant increase of 89% compared to the small increase we're seeing this year. Also, comparing to levels back in 2019, we have around 48% fewer homes for sale compared to the end of August 2019, and also fairly similar trends compared to 2018 as well, at around the same levels of 2019 at this time. So one of the main reasons why we're seeing a low level of the number of homes for sale is due to a lack of new supply hitting the market. And in fact, we've been seeing 59 consecutive weeks of decreases of new listings year over year, dating all the way back until early July of 2022. This, of course, is causing inventory to remain at historically low levels. Something that actually is a big change, though, is over the past 2 weeks, we're only seeing decreases by single digits compared to the giant increase that we saw to start the year. So for example, back in January, we saw decreases in the range of 7 to 15%, but actually in July, we saw a decrease of 27% that was set back in July 8th. Now it's only down by 5.7%. So we're only seeing single-digit decreases on a year-over-year basis compared to the previous 16 weeks in which we saw double-digit decreases. Okay, let's also talk about how fast or how slow houses are selling nationwide. Again, though, this just a friendly reminder here. This is based on a closed home sale. Therefore, days in the market is a lagging indication of our U.S. housing market. Last week, it took about 4 days longer to sell a home. This actually marks the 55th consecutive week in which houses took longer to sell compared to the same time frame of 2022. However, though, you may notice that the difference between this year and last year is actually getting more narrow. This implies the market was slowing much faster at this time last year compared to this year. So for example, it took about 4 days slower to sell a house last week compared to 13 days slower just about a month and a half ago. Let's also talk about the percent change in the number of reduced price listings nationwide, because last week it was a decrease of 24.3%. This marks 12 consecutive weeks of year-over-year decreases in the number of reduced price listings compared to triple-digit gains that we saw to start the year. As you can see, to start the year, we saw giant increases in the range of 140% to 170%, which is much different than the 24% decrease we saw last week. These numbers here have been a negative ever since early June this year, and in my personal opinion, this is due to two main reasons. Number one, low inventory levels of existing houses. In other words, fewer options for home buyers to buy, leading to fewer price reductions that home sellers are doing right now. And number two, price reductions were skyrocketing at this time last year. In contrast, though, this year, the share of price drops is relatively flat year to date so far this year. I also want to share the share of price drops according to AltosResearch.com. So for the week ended August 18th, the share of price drops was 36%. 1 year ago at this time, the share of price reductions was about 39%, but at 36% more or less, This is still higher compared to 2021 at 26%, and also in 2020 at around 26% as well. But one thing you guys should be aware of though is the current level of price reductions is roughly on par with 2019 as well as 2018. You may notice as well is that the share here has been increasing, but this is entirely normal, as you can see each and every year, except for 2020, which is abnormal. But it is normal to see the share of price drops increase during this time of year, but it should peak out very, very soon, especially in the early fall months this year. And also something worth noting as well is that the trough last year was only at around 17%, but by the time we hit this time last year, it surged to 39%. I compared that to this year, the trough, I should say, was back at in early May at 29%. Now it has only increased to 36%. So the housing market at this time last year was slowing down at a much faster clip than this year. Not to say that our housing market is not without its challenges though, right now though, right? Also want to share a summary of today's video because of course, that was a lot of information to go over. Number one, asking prices in the US increased year over year for 4 consecutive weeks. The decrease in prices from a year earlier was very much short-lived, only 6 weeks, due to the fact that prices fell much faster at this time last year, and low inventory right now is supporting home price growth overall this year. Number two, housing inventory, or the number of homes for sale, decreased 7% year over year and also marked the 9th consecutive weekly decrease as well. Inventory has barely increased this year, only up by 26,000 houses for sale year to date, compared with a surge experienced last year, rising by 260,000 by this time last year. Also, new listings have been decreasing year over year for 59 consecutive weeks. This continued lack of new supply hitting the market is causing inventory to remain at historically low levels, down by about 48% compared to the same time frame of 2019. Number three, average 30-year fixed rate mortgage rates were at 6.8% this July compared to 5.4% from a year earlier, according to Freddie Mac. I know I didn't mention that in today's video, but obviously that provides some context regarding what we're seeing in the market right now, right? Number four, the share of price reductions is roughly the same as the same week of 2018 and 2019. So the share of price drops is roughly on par with pre-COVID levels. However, though, it's much higher than 2020 and 2021 at this time. Number five, houses are taking longer to sell compared to the same week 12 months ago for 55 consecutive weeks. Again, though, this is a lagging indicator of our US housing market. So what are some potential huge changes ahead? And a disclaimer, I am not a real estate market fortune teller. If I had those superpowers, that'd be pretty cool though, right? I'm such a nerd. Number one, average 30-year rates are 1.5 percentage points higher today compared to 1 year ago, according to data from the Mortgage News Daily. That represents a 50% decrease in buyers' purchasing power. Also, there's a lot of challenges that home buyers are facing right now. So for example, we have record low housing affordability, and also we have low inventory levels of existing houses, and of course, elevated rates as well. Nearly the highest rates we've had going back to December of 2000, or according to Freddie Mac, the highest rates since 2001. We also have a potential for a recession. The GDP grew by 2.4% annualized in Q2, beating expectations. And also we need to have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. We don't have that just yet. But one thing's for certain though, we have a lot of uncertainty regarding our housing market and our US economy as well. Number two, this is a big one here. I talk about it on the channel quite a bit here. Housing affordability is a huge hurdle for home buyers right now, especially compared to the previous 2 years. Rates have more than doubled and home prices have increased by about 40% compared to 2020. Mortgage rates in general have been on the rise since April, and on a national level, home sold prices have increased by about 9% year to date, according to data from Redfin. Therefore, we have rising rates and home prices making housing affordability even worse than it already is. And of course, I don't think this is just my opinion, though. I think a lot of people share this opinion. This is not sustainable to have all-time record lows for housing affordability and for home prices to be up by 40% over the previous 3 years. On top of that, we have seasonality and affordability constraints will put downward pressure on prices, which in my personal opinion, is very much needed because the housing market's challenging. What can I say? It's a challenging market to say the least. I will promise you though, the market will get better if you guys are looking to buy a house, because we can't have home prices be at very close to all-time record highs, and we can't have rates at around 7.4% and expect home prices to increase forever, right? But it will get better. Time will tell, but practice your patience, if I should say. I know it's hard. Number 3, early signs of home buying demand have been absolutely all over the place due to the volatility in rates this year. The most recent stats show that applications for home purchases, these are mortgage applications for people looking to get a loan to buy a house, decreased by 30% from the same week 1 year ago for the week ended August 18th, according to the MBA. The MBA's purchase index, which is a measure of people submitting loan applications, decreased to the lowest levels since April 1995. Therefore, demand is still very low. Also, Redfin's most recent data shows that pending home sales decreased by 14% from a year ago, and new listings fell by 21%. So we have a low level of demand, meaning a low level of supply. Also, the National Association of Realtors reported on July 27th that pending home sales in June fell by 16% compared to June 2022. I believe NAR is going to report their most recent trends regarding pending home sales. I believe it's later this week or early next week. And of course, I'll definitely make a video once they release that. I'm guessing we're going to see double-digit decreases of contracts being signed of existing houses as well in July, though. Just a pure speculation there. However, new home construction sales, which is defined by a signed contract between a builder and a home buyer, that is a sale as defined by the U.S. Census Bureau, that increased by 24% year over year in June. It increased by 32% in July 2022 through July this year. So therefore, we're seeing a huge pullback in signed contracts of existing houses, yet a huge increase of signed contracts for brand new home construction. So therefore, builders are gaining an advantage due to rate buy downs and a low supply of existing houses for sale. My question though, and I added this morning here, how long will this last though, given the fact that rates have been over 7% for quite some time now? I mentioned this because builders can't continue offering 5% rates, for example, when rates are at 7.4%. You can't do that indefinitely, right? So time will tell there. But one thing's for certain though, it appears our market is highly rate dependent and the data coming in is ever changing. And of course, real estate is local. I tend to share national trends, but it may vary by the area you live in, right? Number 4, sellers and buyers have exited the market, leading to a dip of new listings and contracts being signed as well. The lack of new supply of existing houses since last summer has led to inventory remaining at historically low levels, down by about 48% from 2019. If homeowners continue to decide that now is not a good time to sell a house, that of course will limit inventory levels. The direction of our U.S. housing market will likely depend on unemployment, mortgage rates, inventory, and more importantly, the balance between supply and demand. And number 5, this is a big one. I appreciate you guys for watching today's video and of course for supporting my YouTube channel as well. Please like and subscribe. Hope you guys have an awesome day and look forward to seeing you on the next video.